Welcome to day 2 at the RSAC Conference 2025. This is your intro for day 2. Adrian Sanabria here with Jackie McGuire. How you doing, Jackie?
I am tired, but I am halfway through a 4-shot flat white, so I'll be buzzing before too long, and I got a Trent a cold brew to follow that up, so if I make it to the end of the day without a heart attack, I'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a marathon, and sometimes it's easy to forget that on day 1.
Yeah. My whole life is this delicate balance of weed and coffee, so I feel like I'm threading the needle right now, but I'm not sure if that'll last to Thursday.
I did B-Sides before RSA. I spoke at B-Sides, so already I feel like I'm halfway through the week already. And so wanted to talk about stuff that we saw yesterday, conversations we had, what was interesting. I don't think I had too many light bulbs go off yesterday. It is shades of last year and the year before.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I feel like we are starting to get a sense of what's noise and what's real around AI.
Yeah. I've been asking hard questions because I think we're at a really interesting point where up until probably 2 years ago, software was really the limiting factor for technology. You know, we had all this cloud compute that enabled endless scaling, and we've gotten to a point now where the hardware is the limiting factor. And so that's when I've been asking a lot of hard questions around that, around like what happens if our hardware supply chain shortens. But to your point, these are just different flavors of the same conversations from last year. The other question I'm asking is, seems like we're over the hump of hype, and for a lot of areas we're headed into the trough of disillusionment. So I think there are a lot of companies having to talk about how they're going to manage that, what things they've actually found profitable, because that's one of the things I've been meeting with vendors as an analyst, and a lot of them are like, I ask them, are LLMs actually profitable, to use? And the answers are murky.
I think the trough of disillusionment is a good thing. It's kind of like the best companies come out of a recession, right? The ones that are strongest survive that environment. And I think it does feel like we're in that moment where everything is laid out on the table. We're like, none of this is useful. This stuff is useful. Let's keep it here. And so we're in the find out phase.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Well, and I enjoy that, and I enjoy the fact that there are some applications. One of the things I'm looking forward to is getting away from LLMs, because they are like the least efficient, most often least effective model to use for a lot of things in security, because security data is a pretty finite set of stuff. They don't scale.
Well.
And there's very little actual language interpretation you need to do in security unless you're reading through like breach reports or something like that. And so I'm asking a lot of these companies, like, yes, an LLM is the easiest thing to interface with, but is it actually necessary for the telemetry? Or can there just be an LLM at the front that talks to the user, and then a regression model or a nearest neighbors model, something like that for the actual very well-defined data? And that's the thing I don't understand about security really rapidly embracing LLMs, is we don't deal a lot of times with murky data. We deal with kind of known variables. So I think one thing that I hope is that we're going into a phase where other types of machine learning become popular again, and we move away from that because LLMs are very expensive. So I agree. I think a good culling of the flock, and I hate to say that because I know there's a lot of companies who aren't going to survive an economic pullback potentially, but it's a good thing, and it frees up more capital for the companies who are making it work.
Maybe some people just haven't done the math, but I just can't imagine some of these approaches scaling. Like, for example, I saw last week that I think it was Drop Zone AI saying like 4,500 alerts a day is the average for whatever organizations they were looking at. That sounds enormously high to me. And within those 4,500, I imagine you have a lot of the same thing happening over and over and over. Like maybe there's just 11 flows in that. If you look at the analyst flow to investigate, enrich, understand each of those, and make a decision whether to take action or just close it. And to have an LLM, and there also Drop Zone AI saying 3 to 11 minutes to process each of those, and I'm sure that's a mix of GPU time and scraping a website or searching the web or something like that, reaching out to APIs, pulling other data. So it's not all GPU time, it's not all LLM time. But if you do it once and then you do it again and then you do it a third time, maybe you convert that into more traditional automation,
aggregation,
workflow.
Yeah.
And you never, for the same thing, you never do it more than 3 times.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes traditional CPU, shell script, however you automate that, and you're not wasting all that time. And now you can do it super fast, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the issues is we've talked about this on ESW a lot. Is the reason that the reason a lot of companies don't understand the economics of LLMs is that this is Amazon and Microsoft and Google and OpenAI's fault is that they have not passed the costs on yet.
Yeah.
And that's the traditional kind of large tech company model. It's the freemium model. They're getting you hooked on it for free, but free is not free. Free is they're distributing the cost across the entire customer base. And so I do think we'll reach a point where things are not free or discounted anymore for the sake of getting you hooked on the AI.
Yeah, first sample's free.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely, it's the dealer model.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the issue is that I really feel like there should be more transparent pricing requirements for cloud providers so they can't do this, because think about how many startups have been built based on these economics that are not realistic. And so without understanding at the end of this period what that's going to realistically cost, I don't know how you can start a business that relies on cloud AI usage.
Yeah. It's I think we did need this experimentation phase, though.
Yeah.
I don't know that we needed to fund quite that many Gen AI SecOps startups, but I think experimentation with any kind of new technology is needed to some extent. Yeah, did we overdo it? Probably.
In tech, never.
But we're going to get a lot of lessons learned out of it. Kind of the bar for me. What I'm looking for in 2025, I haven't gone into the expo yet, but if I don't see some of these Gen AI security, like using Gen AI to solve security problems, startups getting really gobbled up by the end of the year, getting acquired by other companies, I'm going to consider it possibly a failure.
Yeah, we saw a couple acquisitions this week that a couple of the larger companies have acquired AI, but I think it's more just we want to say we have an AI capability. But to your point, I don't think we've seen the level of M&A that is really market validating.
Yeah, I would expect to see Red Canary, Arctic Wolf, like the MSSPs doing SecOps at scale for a bunch of different customers. If they're not buying these amazing new Gen AI SecOps startups, the tech doesn't work.
Yeah, and they have a more revenue to gain from automating, like breach reports for customers and things like that. So yeah, if you can't make it profitable at scale, you're not going to make it profitable as an individual consumer.
Either that, or it's kind of like we saw a little bit with external attack surface management, where most of those vendors were taking the same GitHub repos, the same open source tools, and just stitching them all together to do OSINT on the internet.
Yeah.
It could. The other explanation is maybe it does work, but it's so easy for them to build themselves, they didn't feel the need to do the acquisition.
Yeah.
So then if we see any acquisitions, it's going to be more about bringing customers in with those acquisitions, which wouldn't really make sense for an MSSP.
Yeah, and that may be the case that because the startup costs are so high for some of these kind of initial AI pushes, that the M&A isn't going to happen for a few years until the revenue pays off some of those sunk costs. Because I think to your point, it takes a lot less money or data to deep seek something than it does to open AI something. So,
but every now and then we do see something where I don't know what it was with CASB. CASB was one of these markets that within I want to say 36 months of the category of most of them coming out of stealth, they were acquired. More than 50% of the market was acquired. We saw the same thing with DSPM. Within, I want to say 18 months of them most of them coming out of stealth, they were already acquired.
Yep.
So,
is this because that's more of a feature of a larger product?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my thought too, is that it's things that people will buy as an individual product, but would really rather was
either
integrated.
a feature or complementary. So like
Yeah.
Rubrik, is
Yep.
got where they are doing backups, and they acquired Laminar, which is complementary. And kind of the way they're pitching it is, don't worry about deleting data you think you don't need. Worst case, we can restore it for you.
Yeah.
And the DSPM product is doing that data discovery classification that's going to help you remove unnecessary data.
Yeah.
So that's one of the complementary ideas behind that acquisition there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I haven't been to the show floor either, but I'm looking forward to. I think I have some time to hit it today, so it'll be interesting to see. Like, to your point, where people are grouping, because you could tell Wiz was going to. I was not surprised by the Wiz acquisition because you couldn't get past a Wiz booth at a trade show because there were so many people packed into it.
Yeah.
So I want to go see which of the newer companies have that kind of buzz around them.
Are going to be the next Wiz?
Yeah, exactly.
What is it? Sierra is they're touting themselves as the fastest growing right now. That hiring people to drive around town in cars that just has branding on it. So.
Yeah.
I mean, Wiz was doing that a couple years ago, so.
If you can absolutely scalpel dissect the market, you can be the third fastest growing, data whatever for this in 18 months in this cat. Yeah, so I think all the companies are doing that. Yeah,
right?
Hey, that's my hometown.
If you carve it enough, yeah.
Live free or die.
So today, boy, the reports are coming out fast and furious. The Verizon DBIR came out last week. The M-Trends came out in the same day. That was a terrible idea, whoever decided on that. And today I'm talking about two new ones. So Level Blue has a report coming out. I've got it on here. I'm starting to read it. And so does Fortinet Labs.
Yeah.
So I'm interviewing Derek Mankey in a bit and still going through that report and just trying to consume all this information coming out of these reports. And it's interesting, IBM also came out with a threat report, and some of its findings contradict what was in the Verizon DBIR, so that was really interesting. I wonder if it's, the DBIR has probably the broadest data set from worldwide. They get data from like 200 law enforcement agencies.
We need like a nerd data fight club where we make them both stand up with PowerPoints and go slide to slide to
IBM saying the quantity of ransomware incidents is down, whereas Verizon said it's up, but the amount paid and the amount that pay the ransom and the amount of the ransom is down. So we're hearing different things from different people. I imagine it's just different sample sets.
Well, yeah, because we talked about a couple months ago on ESW, there are companies out there whose entire job is to bury the fact that you had a breach or paid a ransom. So it could be that one of them has access to more private data than the other one does.
Yeah, I want to spend some more time going through these reports and maybe doing some kind of meta-analysis on it. Maybe we could do that on Enterprise Security Weekly at some point, do that as a topic segment. I think that would be a lot of fun to say, okay, who's right here? They say up, they say down?
Yeah.
Who's right? Sure. Well, that's all we have time for the intro today. We're going to jump into some of our conversations here in just a few minutes, so don't go anywhere.